Good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's our absolute pleasure. We also have John here with us. John Singleton, are you okay?
I'm very well, and thank you for having me.
So, what an honor! It's the first time we actually have a threesome like this. So let's see how let's see how it works.
Yeah.
It's a first one
Let's
for
see that.
me. I'm not going to ask you whether it's the first one for you guys, but it certainly is for me. And I was just thinking, Shane, of course, no, you're the man, you're the absolute man. Now everybody wants to know everything about you. So I have a few questions here. Some of them I have gathered from friends and family. We also did ask
Cool.
our social media followers whether there was something specific they would like to know from you. And then I'm just gonna shoot. But the first one is actually sort of my question because I'm a huge fan of you, your story, and your athletes. But I know that you've finished the games and you've been on a road trip for a few days, probably taking a few days off. I mean, what are those days like? I mean, you go all in, vacation, eat anything, no training, just crazy, or is there a bit of a structure and you actually do some training?
No, so you're exactly right. The first part was so true. I feel like we dive deep in a hole of training where we just go completely gun ho on that and commit to that. And then once it's the off season, we have the same intensity for that. So absolutely no structure. I think that was the perk of it. Our original plans changed. We planned to have gone to Italy and now I might butcher the name, but is it the Amalfi Coast? What is it? Anyway, there's a
No,
beautiful coastline. We were going to sail with that with Tia's family and some close friends of ours. But obviously, with the circumstances, that changed. Unfortunately enough, we were able to hire an RV and simulate the best we could on the coast of the US. So, yeah, a lot of eating, a lot of sleeping in, and no training.
and is that something you do every year after the games? I mean, you set a time, maybe what is it, 2 weeks, where you just do that, enjoy yourselves and eat.
Yeah, so I think it's really stems from, well, particularly Tia in this situation. Tia will sort of base what she wants to do. I think it's more for her to have her decompression for the season. I obviously put some input of where we want to go, what we can do, but ultimately it's her chance now to do what she wants to do, make up for the season or make up for the year where she had to put in those extra hours here and there. So it's
Hmm.
I guess it's a reward. I guess it is like a holiday. Well, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and well deserved. That's no doubt. Um, Shane, I mean, everybody knows you're coaching the two fittest men and women on earth. So everybody wants to know everything about
Yeah.
you as a coach, but you as a as an athlete, as a person. I mean, you also take care of your fitness, and you probably also coach yourself very well. But how does your formula look like? What do you do, and what do you think your fitness is going into?
My fitness particularly, or we're talking about the other guys?
No, yours. I mean,
Yeah.
as Shane. I mean, you're the
Yeah.
best coach in the world.
Stop it. But I appreciate that. Keep going. No, no. So it all depends. Like, sorry, depends where we are in the season. Depends on my involvement physically, like of what I do. Typically in the off season or in the preseason training camp, I'm very much involved. I like to do a lot of that. I think it's important for me to understand physically what they're going through. With the DOMs and everything they go through, the volume, understanding how they're feeling tired or tight in the morning. So very important for me to do that. But as the season progresses or as the volume increases, Shane's training decreases. And I think that allows me to step back from physically feeling it now, like watching it more mentally now, and watching the surroundings, particularly with Tia and Matt, and being more involved or being that third eye and just watching from far.
So there's a level of testing you do before everything you program for other people and especially for them.
Yeah, we certainly go through a testing phase and then we retest, obviously. Particularly for myself, there's no expectations. I'm thrilled that I get to exercise or make a career out of training. So uh, I know that'll always be tomorrow for me to train at this particular moment. So I'm just going all in and trying to help these guys become the best version of themselves. So I'm just fortunate that these guys don't need much of a push. I can sit back and they don't need me to lead the way. No, I wish that was the
Well,
case.
we will definitely tackle that. I have a few questions to try and get the keys to what you do and how you do it so well. But I also had some people interested in knowing. We all have a sort of a CrossFit story or a performance story, and like going back to your early days, how do you get involved in CrossFit in the first place?
Yeah, so pretty sure it was 2013. We had a preseason camp for rugby, and how it would work when the paddocks were too wet, we would then do this thing called CrossFit. And sure enough, that I had a membership in a Globo gym at the time, so I just said, "Hey, look, I'm not sure I can attend this CrossFit thing you guys do, but I'll just go to the Globo gym down the road where I've got a membership." And then they'll just, as the weeks progressed in this preseason camp, and it was just raining nonstop for weeks. I just bit the bullet and said, right, I'll try this CrossFit thing. Anyway, sure enough, I went there, absolutely loved it. I don't recall the workout, but I recall the next day feeling sore completely everywhere. Then I passed the idea on to Tia. I said, "Hey, Tia, you should try this thing called CrossFit. I think it'll really complement your track and field, particularly with the hurdles being more explosive and plyo training, which they do for some of the warm-up drills." Anyway, she tried this thing called CrossFit, and sure enough, she come back and absolutely hated everything about it. Didn't enjoy her session. She walked out of there and said, "No, that's not for me. I'd rather stick to what I know." But anyway, that's another story there. But I was shown CrossFit through rugby training, and it was a preseason camp or training session. Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, you're from Australia. You're Australian, and so your background in sports is rugby. Was that your sport, and this is where you did your biggest impact so far?
Yeah. Rugby would have been was the one sport that I would say that I stuck to the most. Like I like dabbling in other sports like rugby league. Obviously, just I appreciated a lot of other sports, but I played other sports growing up. But I would say definitely that rugby union was the code of choice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because you mentioned rugby, and that immediately starts to give me a sort of a picture of the kind of person you are, because rugby is the kind of sport that tells a lot about an athlete and how you see sports and teamwork. And very often when I think of you, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, I think you have such a great team mentality and a great service mentality. I mean, I see the way you deal with Tia and Matt, and you're there for them. You don't have like that coach persona where it's like I say you do and I know you don't. So I'm gonna get straight to it. To you as a coaching. What are the keys to coaching the best? As in, they already know a lot. And what are the keys to that relationship to two athletes that already know a lot about training, about themselves?
Yeah, great question. How I break it down as well, and I'm sure John can relate to this as well. As you get to the higher end athletes, they've already got a lot of the skills and the prerequisites. Like they've got the drive, they've got the training volume under their belt, so to speak, and they're very disciplined outside of the gym. I think at this level, it's more about managing load, being conscious of their training, and communication. Communication is hands down the most important aspect that I think that is not overlooked, but a valuable asset into relationship building and understanding your athletes. It's obviously a two-way street. When I say communication, I'm not just necessarily saying what I'm saying, do this. I'm actually looking at more than the verbal language they give me. Obviously, the physical, which body parts they're touching excessively, like how they're grasping their shoulder. Okay, so I'm conscious of that. I'm even looking at the body language which they're portraying in my conversation. Are they even present? Are they thinking about other things? What is it? Is it something off social media what's annoyed them, or I don't know, or is it like a commitment with a sponsor, or is it just the surroundings where they're not comfortable? Are they anyway? Factoring in all those things and understanding that for me is having them present is certainly an asset to the fact that we're all together and we see each other daily. Yeah, I hope that answers it. Did I go off track there?
No, absolutely. I mean, I find it fascinating because it's something that it would scare me, to know that I'm trying to bring value to someone that is almost like has all the value in the world. So I was very fascinating into how you tackle how that conversation. And I guess what I'm hearing from you is that there's a lot of listening that actually needs to happen in order for you to bring them with values. Like it's not so much about what you're saying, it's also what you're hearing from them. Is that where you were going?
Yeah, exactly that. It's a two-way street. They've got to be transparent with me as well. I will say though, it does. There is more coaching at the start of the season where we're in the building phase, or we're going back to the fundamentals, the basics, and doing a lot of that where we work strictly on technique and tightening up our movement patterns. And as we progress through the season, I guess the hands-on comes a lot less, and it's more of a reinforcement role, and it's just adapting where I need to be injected into the training a lot more.
Awesome, John. I'm gonna pass it on to you so you can throw Shane a question as well. But before, I'm gonna also make another one myself. I have a ton, and I'm
I'm loving it.
But I guess you're also living you're being challenged by the athletes, and you're also being tested every day as a coach. So I'm sure you've been able to see what your strengths and weaknesses as a coach potentially are. Like as a professional coach, what do you think? I mean, well, first question, is that true? Are you seeing what your strengths and weaknesses is, and are they challenging you as a coach? And second, what do you think your strengths are?
Yeah, I certainly am challenged every day. I think, and that's the aspect, and I'm sure many coaches, and I'm sure John, I'd love to hear what John thinks, but I think that is the most enjoyable part. It's that journey of trying to find that right balance of challenging the athletes and also allowing them to succeed in the training as well. I think with that as well is there's got to be a path or a clear outline. Again, this communication that they understand or they identify where we are and where we're going. Like if that's based around goals, it does come with complications, with the uncertainty of seasons changing from year to year. So we go through this roller coaster of training, like peaks and valleys of when to be at top form and that. So juggling that, obviously these guys get pulled left, right, center with commitments as well. We understand that. Like if it wasn't for their sponsor opportunities, this life wouldn't happen either. Like unfortunately or fortunately, mm-hmm. But that's the reality of it as well. So factoring in when these guys are on the road for days at a time, trying to implement training to support them the best that I can without knowing the surroundings like the gym, whether or not they've got the facility to allow them to train. Strengths and weaknesses, I certainly would lean towards, again, if that's a repetitive word I'm using, is communication at the moment. I think I'm very fortunate that I get to live in the same town as these guys, so I can and live with my wife. So I guess that's very easy when I could communicate with them freely and openly. I know that they understand that everything I say isn't for the better of them. I think they understand what wires me or what drives me is to see them to be better than they were last year. That's ultimately our goal. So they know my intentions are for good. So when I am giving feedback or criticism or supporting, they know it's truthful and it's honest. What I guess that would be the strength.
And it is a big one. It definitely is a big strength. And I think it's something that people hearing us will value, the ability to be able to. And it is challenging to be able to know when, and I have that issue myself, to know when to speak, when to listen, and how you actually process the information to give an answer that's actually more valuable to them. So it's a good strength. I wonder if you have any weaknesses that you could share with us, since sort of a humbling moment saying, yes,
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, when I look at weaknesses, particularly for myself, I look more at the journey and where we were. And, like again, like I'm sure many coaches, just we follow the similar pattern or growth as an athlete would, with knowledge and understanding, communication, all these new tricks we learn along the way. It's just like a CrossFit athlete, they learn techniques and tricks and to be more efficient. And that's the same with the coaching. And I look back in the early days and I look at the communication or the language or the body language that I would give off, and it certainly wouldn't be the same as it is today. And I look at that as a weakness where, particularly when we look at 2015 and 2016 season, I look at that and that was a low point for me where I realized, right, something has to change, not just for Tia, but something has to change with me. Something I can do so much better, but I just need to identify what that was. And I always look at that, and I look at that was the low point for me. And we're talking about athletes' growth as well, and I'm going to use Tia again, but her trajectory in performance and growth certainly was on the climb on the 2015, certainly 16, and then exponentially on the 17 season. And I would say I was on the same growth pattern as her as well. So I think the learning curve for both of us, particularly in 2016 and 2017, was a big learning curve. And I look at that as a weakness. I look at 2015 and 2016. Those building years or those years were foundation for me.
Mm-hmm. Important to have a moment where you can look back and say, no, I became a better coach then, and I guess we all go through that. And
sorry, yeah, go.
No, I mean I'm here to listen to you so you can interrupt me anytime, yeah. Shane.
Oh no, well, I appreciate that. I wish I had that same respect at home, but I think I was gonna say. What was I going to say? Sorry. 2016. I think, honestly, that low point at the end of that games where Tia was absolutely shattered with that result, that was a low point for me. And I often think about that. Like, that's the point I never want to see her feel again. And that's like my motivation. I'm conscious of that feeling of what we both felt in that particular moment. Mm-hmm. And I'll do everything I can to make sure that never happens again as well. So that's the forefront of my mind as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's very inspiring to hear you say it, because even I felt that there was not just a sort of a coach-athlete relationship. It was more than that. It's like it's like this an emotional strength. And before I give the word to John, I'm sorry, John. I'm just so interested in also hearing whether the fact that you're training your wife, whether that adds something. Like a bit of an emotion that makes you even be more connected 24 hours a day. Does that make it better?
Yeah, I think it does. And again, Tia and I, our relationship's unique. We've been doing this coach relationship thing longer than we've ever been married or anything like that, if that makes sense. So when we were both in school, I would be on the stopwatch when she was doing track. So I'd literally just press stop start when she'd go around the track, and I'd just write down her times. That was us hanging out. That was our way of our parents letting us hang out, so to speak. So it's been very ingrained, or it's been a very large impact in our relationship, this dynamic of coach and relationship. And it's certainly strengthened our relationship. I get to see my wife 24/7. Oh, well, sorry. I get to see her all through our working day, and when we come home together. So that comes with a lot of perks. As a coach now, speaking as a coach, but obviously as a husband as well, it allows me to hang out with. That's the ultimate goal, right? That's the ultimate dream, that we want to spend time. We want to marry the person we want to spend every absolute moment we get. So I guess I'm living that dream.
Oh, congratulations! Sounds great. Sounds great. I wish you could say the same.
She's just over there, so I've got to say that. No.
Yeah. Maybe Geordie, we should find out the relationship advice for this.
No, you're not. I'm not the one to see for that. I'm certainly no saint in that department. Just ask Tia.
Yeah, John. I think the best relationship advice is just marry the fittest woman on earth, and then everything will be fine. You could she could kill you any minute. So that's why you're the great guy.
You never speak up. You just nod your head and yes, I will. I'll do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, John. First of all, shoot any question you have for Shane, but I'd also like to hear from you of whether you think you have some strengths or weaknesses as a coach.
I think as Shane said, like we have, I suppose in some ways we have like a very interesting journey together. Like the first time I coached at the games was in 2015, and that was kind of Shane and Tia's first year as well, and that's where we first met. And so, in some ways, it's like it's been super happy to follow their journey and see the success that they've had. The podiums kind of ended up being exactly the same, or from first to fourth in 2015 and 2016. And I think the one thing is like the athletes do form a bond as well, but the coaches do as well. Like you understand the emotions that they're going through. There's like you start to sympathise with them and form those bonds. So the coaches also have that aspect behind the scenes as well. And so for me, it's been really nice to follow the journey and also follow the success that you guys have had. And whenever we see Shane or Tia, like that, they're such nice people. So it's when you guys asked me to come onto the podcast, I was super happy to do it and be involved.
Yeah, and thank you so much. Thanks so much, John. How about your weaknesses or strengths? Do you think I know you're. I know.
I was trying to avoid the question there, Jordan.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I pushed, because I know. I mean, you've also been working with athletes for a long time, and you're also like an experienced coach. And now you live in Spain. So I know you're in a good weather. So I can make you feel a bit uncomfortable with those kind of questions. But do you think you have any weaknesses at all or strengths?
100%. I think that my personality long before, even long before coaching, since I was younger, is very very all in, and it's kind of a blessing and a curse. It means that I think for athletes that enjoy that style of really working towards the goal, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and really like and seeing where they can get to. That's something that really excites me. And so I would say that when those two things match, both with the athlete and then me as a coach, then we can form a really strong team and a really tight bond, and it really starts to create nice momentum. That being said, it means that I don't necessarily work well with all types of athletes. I think the biggest difference, obviously the journey kind of for Shane and I had is that I then started up 2016 to work with a much larger kind of stable of athletes, like the type of athletes I've been working with, and so I think that kind of forced me to develop in different ways. And I think that the one thing I did learn is that kind of my strength is working within small groups with athletes who are keen to go all in. The weakness being that sometimes it doesn't gel for that certain type of athlete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is interesting, how you guys just commit to helping someone get better, and you do it, long term, and the bonds are really strong. And I think as fans from the outside, we do see that. I mean, we think of coaches as people that bring a lot of value to athletes. Shane, you are, of course, you're coaching Matt and Tia now, and they performed really, really well at the games, as we all know. And did they perform too well? Did they do it too well? I mean, what are your thoughts on how they performed and the difference, the gap that they created between them and the rest of the pack?
Yeah. Look, normally around now I do a big spreadsheet of like I break down the performance and what they had. So I'm just going to be spitballing, thinking about particular moments through the weekend, which I've pondered on, I know, numerous times since the games. And certainly I'll go with Tia. Certainly the first one that I'm looking at areas of improving, that I'm diving into, the thought was particularly the 6 mile run. I think that workout there, that was her worst placing. She finished third there, and it just hurts because she's a phenomenal runner, but it was just, I guess, the task was whatever the task was, it just was a bad result. So I'm gonna analyze that and then see what we can do to there without diving too much into that programming. like with Matt, I was so pleased or pumped or proud to see him and his swimming workout. I think that was phenomenal. I think that he's improved. I particularly look at the feet when he was moving in that swim. You could just see that him kicking consciously. You could see that. That's a big telltale of him being in control in that particular moment with swimming. Uh, Certainly his mental fortitude in that run workout. So talking about that 6 mile run, when I saw him not giving up or not letting Justin get away with it, even when you thought for a moment there that could have been the situation. That was a strong telltale of that. What else? I'm just thinking of is I'm not sure if you guys saw that Tia and Matt both failed their last push press or push jerk in the event one. You could tell they trained together. That was a bit of a telltale there. What else? So yeah, looking into those. Sorry, I'm a bit of a mind blank at the moment. What else was there? Yeah, because normally I honestly I sit on the computer and I'll just try analyze it and see what we can do, and I use that to help formulate for 2021 or the following season. You know, I look at the whole season and look at areas to improve, but I don't try to get caught on not so much these days. And again, talking about that trajectory of growth as well, I'm more conscious of what they have done rather than comparing to others. Like I'm conscious to some degree of like, okay, wow, that's a 30th finish. We need to really step that up. But like I'm going to talk about the handstand walk. Tia's ability from 2015. John, do you remember which year was it? The regionals where it was like a max handstand walk, you know? And do you remember
Yeah.
that one?
I believe in 2014 they had the handstand walk at regionals. It was they had the 1RM snatch and then max handstand walk.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah. So I remember that. Like when that event got announced for Tia couldn't even handstand walk was new to us. I would be shocked if Tia got more than like 10 feet that day, you know. And then to see her get 100 yards, like I'm talking about the growth. She was never a gymnast to begin with, so I'm talking about. I'm so sorry. I'm more invested in what she has done and using that as a measurement of improvement. I think a lot of people look at improvement when they're comparing it to the field, and I know John doesn't do this, but I know that that's what I'm trying to do. I'm looking at what they've previous done, or I look at workouts where I can what best simulate that workout, and did I see an improvement when I look at the games workout? Obviously, everything at the games heightened, like their level or their ability to go to darker, deeper places is certainly heightened at the game, so they can go that extra mile. But ultimately, that's what it is at the games. They're testing their fitness, and that's why it's important to use that data as well. So I hope somewhere in there that I answered this question. But yeah,
Yeah, honestly, I'm truly enjoying the conversation, and I'm really loving sort of the way you just dig deeper into the answers, and as you talk, like I have more questions in my head. But of course, Matt and Tia, they perform so well during the games. Actually watching the games, I thought they never suffered. There was never a moment where they feel challenged, and they were a few moments. But how did you live the games from as a coach? Was there a moment where you had to dig deeper in that book and say, listen, we're going to do this like this, and we need to plan these carefully. We want to perform at a level we expect?
Yeah, so I think what I want to share as well is like if we rewind it back leading into the games, there was 2 tests required, COVID tests to be done. So one before you departed for California, and then once you check into the bubble, there was another test, and once you get that test, you stay quarantined or you isolate yourself until you get the results back. But for that first test before we could leave, for the both tests, we were so wrapped up about interactions or concerned about just training in the gym, doing everything like that. So for a while there, it was like it was a sixth competitor at the CrossFit Games. We were battling this other person to make sure that they weren't going to test positive for COVID. And that would have been a sick feeling if that ever happened. But
Mm-hmm.
But why I mentioned that is like for so much time there was so much of our conversations were revolved around logistics about transportation or training times, making sure that we weren't at the busiest times when we trained. Obviously, flying over to California when we try to set up our games training camp in California, like even having those hard but friendly chats to the owners of the gym, going, hey, like explaining the whole situation and understanding that. So navigating that was certainly a complex situation. So I think once we got the confirmation after the second test, that was a big relief now. And it felt real. It felt like, okay, the CrossFit Games are going to happen. We're checked in. We've already signed in. We've done the COVID test. Great. So the Games is next. And again, John knows this better than most, is that period from that point on until event one is always like a roller coaster of nerves. You're like, even as a coach, you just consciously think, not second guessing everything you've done, but you're just making sure that you've ticked every box for training, that these guys are primed and ready, and you're thinking more about have they recovered, or have they come off taper feeling like, are they feeling ready, and a lot of external thoughts for me as well, like I'm analyzing other people, the other competitors, and just checking what they look like. Are they in shape? I think that's just natural when you're in the training halls with these guys and you're seeing these phenomenal athletes as well. So but I will say, when event one started and I saw how in control Matt was, and Tia as well, because Matt went first, I was excited for the entire weekend, because not all the workouts released, but I saw the demeanor or the composed look he had, and he had full control. Like, he felt full control of that particular workout, and so did Tia. Like, when I see them scanning the room, I know that they're just doing what they have to do in order to get the points, rather than sort of put a spectacle on and just beat people, sorry, without disrespecting, but beating the athletes significantly, but for no reason, because there wasn't another heat to follow. So they just had to be in control of the other four around them, and then minimize going into that dark place. Yeah. Again, hope that answers that one.
Yeah, super interesting. And I was wondering whether the fact that there were so few athletes, right? I mean, there was only one heat, so you could actually, you were competing against the same guys for the entire weekend, and there were only 4 other guys. Did you guys do some research on what those athletes could do, what their strengths and weaknesses were? Were you able to prepare the games in a different way rather than just go out there and just do your thing?
Yeah. So exactly that. Like, my friend and I, we spend a lot of time doing a big spreadsheet on strength and weaknesses, done a lot of comparison on the 4 other athletes competing against each other, and identifying their strengths and their weaknesses. And this wasn't for me to share with Tia and Matt. It does nothing for them. Like, knowing that doesn't change anything. It's just identifying for me, when I'm starting to project the rest of the weekend, what it's looked like. And in fact, I remember bumping into John occasionally at the games, and we'd exchange notes and talk about, hey, do you know this person? Do you know what their strengths and weaknesses are? Just having these conversations, because I've built a strong relationship with John as well. And again, and just to add, I'm fortunate that he's on this conversation, because I love his input as well. But it's also, these are the things that I internally think about, and in my trust group as well, like with Matt O'Keefe, and that we discuss these topics as well. But again, just want to reinforce that it's not a position. I mean, it's not a place to put these thoughts onto the athletes. I think it's depending on the athlete that they may like this, but for me, it's like my role is to be in charge of all the external factors. Well, this is what I believe anyway. So my role is I want to help them with obviously their training, their interaction, their hydration, their nutrition, their sleep pattern. I want to help them with transportation logistics there. I want to obviously create the warm-ups. They don't have to think there. I want to be conscious with the marshal control and making sure, hey, how long until the guys have to be in the marshal? Obviously, just trying to factor all these external thoughts so that all they have to think about is 3, 2, 1, go, and let the subconscious take over. That's my goal. Yeah. So I guess I'm thinking about all these possibilities, and that to remove it from their thoughts. Yeah.
But I did feel that they looked very comfortable out there. Both Matt and Tia, it felt that they were very much aware of what's going on and very much in control of every single workout and their athletes. So I guess having you do that work for them did change the game a bit, and it was fun to see.
Yeah, I will say though, like it was polar opposite to stage one as it was to stage two. Stage one, you did a workout and you didn't know where you're going to rack up, and for me, like it was exciting. We got to witness Matt go to a realm. Like if Nasty Fran was in stage two, Matt would have had a slower time because he wouldn't have to go to that place. So that's what I look at too. So that's the exciting part, seeing Matt and Tia go to a realm which isn't necessary, but in their mind, they need to do their best because they don't know what's out there. You know what I'm saying? So that was exciting to see. So it was a different game. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking about. It was sort of seeing Matt and Tia compete at the games. It felt like they were sort of controlling and knowing how much work they needed to do, and that they was very smart. It felt very smart. It felt very mature as an athlete, and then seeing them do Fran or stage one, they looked like beasts, like lions. The intensity was there. It's like they were going all in no matter what. Even Matt almost fainting during the front squat. It was like, okay, I'm going to go as far as I need to go, and no one's going to beat me.
Yeah, I mean, it's so exciting to see. Like even Matt with his front squat, he PR'd 20 pounds on his front squat on stage one. That's never required, nor is the opportunity ever arise where you have 20 minutes in the the CrossFit Games to find a 1RM. So when they invite the athletes to go to those places, that's exciting to see them show the best case of their fitness.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. John, you had some questions for Shane. You wanna shoot one?
Yeah, I have many a question. I suppose it's earlier on in the conversation you mentioned there was a big change in your coaching from 15, 16 and then beyond. And I think one thing that would be interesting is like what advice, if you could go back to yourself 5 years ago as you are now, what advice would you give to yourself in 2015?
Yeah, great question. Like I think about this because I think it's important to reflect and see where you were and look at those as learning curves or learning opportunities as well. It's easier to see where you've been than where you will be in 5 years' time, I feel like, in this space of CrossFit. But number one would be trust yourself. I think that it's important to believe that, and it's contagious too. Like I was saying, like it allows, when you're confident in absolutely what when you're confident that you're giving them the best possible opportunity in your opinion, it's easier for them to receive the information. And especially when there's moments of doubt, when you're in a stressful environment, like at the CrossFit Games, and they're not asking for it, they're not looking for confidence, but they can see it, but you're giving off that vibe that, hey, you're prepared, you're ready. That's very important for me. I think that if I was back there, I'd just say buckle up, get ready. It's going to be a roller coaster of a ride. Like I think that's the reality of it too. It's like even with this confidence, you're not guaranteed a straight journey. It's going to be up. You're going to have your highs and lows, and that honestly, just keep open-minded. I think that's the big thing is with me as well. Be open-minded with coaching, and then the learnings or the new learnings, found with training as well. Like I haven't been stagnant. I've always been considerate, like being open-minded to other learnings and bouncing ideas off other coaches or mentors. I always want to be like that. So I just want to reinforce that, like keep doing that. That'll lead you to a better trajectory as well. I hope, yeah, in there somewhere.
Absolutely. You have more, John. Just feel free.
Yeah, of course,
I think,
of course. It's just free fire. Just keep going. I suppose so. I think obviously for you, one of the most interesting factors is the Matt kind of coming into your roster as an athlete and you starting to coach him. And I think something, because from our perspective, you only see kind of the outside or the social media dynamic of it. And I think a lot of people, including myself, are interested to know how the dynamic works within the group, of how a kind of daily session looks. For example, like does Matt like follow the programming 100%? Would he just follow along exactly what you guys do? Will he modify things? Like the kind of in-depth of I suppose a behind the scenes verbal look at a day training with you guys.
Yeah, so Judd, I'll keep some cards close. I don't want to give them all away. No, I'm kidding. But what I will say is, if I had to break it down in a percentage, I would say that 80% of the time, or I'd say 85% of the time, Tia and Matt are training together. The other 15 would be when one of them are on the road, or that we're doing a monostructural piece in the morning and we've got our own little small setup in our apartment. So we'll just do our rowing intervals here, and then Matt would do them in his garage at home, and then we would exchange notes later. But that for the rest of it, these guys train together and completely do the same workouts. What's phenomenal about it is that they have so many strengths that are very similar to each other, so that we can create a program, or we can structure a program to suit them both. There are times where, like for instance, handstand walk, Matt won't have to do as much as that. So he'll work on another piece where Tia will work more solely on that, and vice versa. So like when those happen, we certainly adjust on the fly there, or not on the fly, but we adjust or compensate for that. But yeah, Matt would do absolutely everything we have done, and he also provides input as well, and so does Tia for that matter. But that's what I wanted. Again, talking about that transparency, like I want him. He was a phenomenal athlete before he got to me. So the fact that, so I want to take in his input, because he would have had a lot of learnings that I want to implement to our training, which has helped him. And I want to obviously add that, and then vice versa as well, that I try to create a plan for him to be at his best. I think the only complication when I'm starting to think more into it would certainly be around the sanction events. When Matt went to London, Tia wasn't doing London. She did the Mayhem Classic weeks prior to that. So that overlap, that period there, we had them doing like different training, obviously for Matt to peak at one time and Tia to peak earlier. But other than that, these guys would do a lot of training, and they're phenomenal. They exchange notes towards each other after a workout, and they'll talk about what they did. Sometimes they'll do different strategies on purpose, just so they can reflect and then go, hey, this worked better. Obviously, this worked better, or they'll just exchange notes that way. Again, these guys are phenomenal. They're very conscious of their body, so it's very easy in that sense. So I think.
And do they tend to? Does the programming often happen like on a weekly? Like, do you just present, say, here guys, here's the week's programming, or does it happen in a daily basis each morning that you'll sit down and go through?
Yeah, so I like to, if I've got a strength program which carries over 8 weeks, obviously I populate, say, the 8 weeks and put them in the spreadsheet. I like to fill out the entire week. I like to have a 2-week plan, loose plan, say for instance, AM swim, PM, gym and whatever hill sprints here, or I like to do XYZ there. But what I like to do, then for the week at hand, I populate that to about 85%. But let's talk, say it's Monday, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will be 100% filled out. It's just the remainder of the week, which isn't completely filled out. And as the days move forward, I'm a day and a half or 2 days ahead that I'm filling it out completely. And why I think that's important is just that if something I didn't factor in, say, oh, that's right, I forgot that they did 300 air squats, hence why their legs are sore on Wednesday. Let me just remove this squat session here and then put it on Friday. So that's how I typically do 90% of the year. The other part would be in the off season, where I just free range or do nothing completely.
And how long is your guys? Because you hear. I think Matt was always the first kind of guy you'd hear because Froning in his stage. If everyone knows Froning loves training. Like
Yeah,
there's no kind of off season. So I
yeah,
think Fraser was the first guy to kind of come along. Well, first like major athlete who was in that dominant phase was like, you know what, I'm not training now. I'm taking
yeah.
the time off. I'm doing it. And how long? As Fraser talks in terms of months, or at least he mentions that, like, he'll have a few months off, not do anything. Would that be the same for you guys? That, like, when you talk about off, that's like zero training for 2 months?
Yep. So the only time we've done the same thing for many, many years as well. I think after 2016, leading in 2017 was our biggest break, and that was actually due to Tia's injury. Like it forced us to have a break, and we realized the importance of it back then. Uh, so yeah, we try to maximize absolutely no time in the gym. And it's true, yeah, it's true for both parts. Rich does train all year round. I know he's training probably right this minute, and I know for a fact that Matt's not training right this minute. I think it's for us. It seems to be the best way to maximize the guys' intensity and efforts throughout the entire year, and it seems to be an important model for us. It allows them to reset and think about their goals mentally. Also, the first couple of years, particularly for Tia, she was obviously trying to go through to make it to the Olympics. So we found ourselves not doing CrossFit, but we're just solely doing weightlifting. And no disrespect to weightlifters, but that allowed us to. It's still a very small volume wise or of training as it is training for the CrossFit Games. Yeah.
It makes perfect sense, and I'm also wondering. I mean, you see the best athletes in the world. I mean, you live in that community, the best athletes in the world competing at the highest level, and I was wondering if you see what are the biggest and most common mistakes you see so the best athletes in the world do. I mean, I tell you this because I don't know if it was with you, John, but someone in the community told me, we all know Neil Maddox is the strongest guy, but sometimes he goes to the games and he fails to do as well as he's supposed to, and I guess that involves a level of performance
Disclaimer, that wasn't me.
that was me. Sorry.
Just before that goes out to CrossFit World, that was.
Sorry, John.
Not me.
It's because me as a fan, I did buy a Neil Maddox T-shirt. I love the guy, and so someone told me. But I guess the question is, what is the biggest mistakes you see in the best athletes in the world, if any?
In CrossFit?
Yeah.
Oof. I mean, it is a good question, but I don't feel like I'm the right person to criticize another coach. Like, I feel like I'm on this learning curve just as much as the next coach. I can only express on what's worked for us. Like, what I'm trying to do without you realizing is avoid the question, and I just thought I'd say
I'll just change. Yeah, Sorry. It really was something that I'm fascinated on. Is like, is it really possible that that someone at that level actually makes a mistake, or is it just like a tweak in the planning or the programming that can be adjusted? But let's move on to something else. Unless John wants to go deeper into some of his topics. I'm also interested. Shoot.
I just wanted to follow on from that. I think that one thing that's interesting, and I think one of the really nice things that that's happened because of Matt joining in the Rooster with Shay and Tia is that it shows the importance of a team. And like back in the day, like I started CrossFit in like 2007, 2006. We're working out in car parks, and that's where like competitions were held. And as the sport's evolved and taking through to the next levels, I think it's really important that athletes have support teams around them. And the sport with the way it is now, it's like, I think that trying to just go on your own route and do everything by yourself, it's like, it's hard enough. And so putting yourself in a good support team, putting good people around you is actually one of the greatest things you can do as an athlete.
Yeah, I would agree with that too, John. I think that as that's probably a big thing as well. Like I think if you compare to even our first year at the games, 2015, I think there was only a handful of coaches that specialized in elite coaching. The others were just members of the gym, and to see that growth for me is exciting, and I'm sure you get excited as well. It shows the level of professionalism the athletes are obtaining now or have access to, and I think that's what we need in order for the sport to keep developing or keep pushing the boundary for human performance. And I think that's what's phenomenal about what I'm excited when I compare against 2015 Shane to 2020 or 21 is just seeing the growth I've had there. And I hope to express that or push those learnings into the training formats for Tia and Matt. And I think that's a topic what doesn't get highlighted as well. Like we commend, and again, I'm biased as a coach, but we commend these athletes for getting these awesome accolades. But behind it is this coach what is learning all these ways as well, these new techniques and stuff that we're trying to implement in their training. Don't get me wrong, the athletes are phenomenal. We wouldn't be here without them, but someone's putting in the time to put in the book work or put in the the computer time to learn these other new methods or evolve or adapt or look elsewhere. Like I've always looked at strength and conditioning as a big resource for myself, like not particularly CrossFit. Sorry, I do, but I also look elsewhere. So for instance, I look at like NFL combine or training plans, what they use for them guys. I look at the EPL, or sorry, I just look at soccer and see what those guys are doing for conditioning based stuff, and I talk about like little things like divers and swimmers and when they do their breathing protocols, when they're doing stuff like that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a big realm out there of strength and conditioning, which has been around for hundreds of years. And if we can, as coaches, utilize that and then dish it out to the athletes, I'm sure we can push new boundaries for human performance as well.
Fascinating to hear you saying like how you get better as a coach and what are your sources of information. Do you actually have a sort of a routine yourself to get better, to learn? Or is it something you do naturally, sort of a bit every day?
Yeah, I mean it sounds a bit cheesy, but I've got like this book, and it's just like it asks for 5 tasks a day, and I'll just fill it out. And I'm trying to make a goal of 3 times a week where I'll dedicate 60 to 90 minutes of external learning of just anything outside the realm of CrossFit. So again, just talk breathing. Breathing's one of those ones I'm looking at. Cycling world, I'll just try to dive deep in one of them. Like I put on a YouTube or a podcast, listen to that, and then if there's terminology there what excites me, then I'll just go on a rabbit hole there. So I try to do that. I will say throughout this, like once I'm in the thick of it, like leading into the games, that does fall away because I'm not going to implement anything new into training. But for the off season particularly, and even throughout the open and the sanctioned events, I dabble around with those learnings. But yeah, so I do. This is me trying to be open-minded and look at new learnings. Yeah.
Fascinating. We're just going to throw you a couple last questions and
yeah.
Thank you for your time. But I was wondering, the T-shirt you're wearing, I know you have sort of a training platform, right? Is it, and then you're launching, and are you accepting athletes from all over the world to follow your training, or just top athletes? How's that going to work?
Yeah. So we offer 2 tracks at the moment for our Proven site. We offer one for fitness, and it's going to probably start evolving now that we've a lot of people going back into lockdown. So we offer one for fitness, and that's just about a 60, 90-minute session where the everyday with limited access to equipment can utilize. And then we offer a compete track. And at the moment, we're putting that into more of a sanctioned cross open preparation, given that the games and the big competitions aren't until later in the year. But essentially, it's what Tia and Matt do. Before we used to call it, I'm not sure what we used to call it, but like do what Tia does or something like that, or I forget the name of it. I've just butchered it, but it's essentially what Tia does anyway, and that can go from about 2.5 to 4.5 to 4 hours worth of training there. But yeah, it's growing and we're phenomenal. We're looking at expanding, which is awesome. that will allow me to just focus solely on the competitive athletes. We always are looking at for competitive athletes. I will say though, like this is a new endeavor. I think again, like if you asked me 5 years ago, would I be open-minded to this? My original thought would have been when Tier retires, I retire. Like this was, I ultimately wanted to do this because Tier wanted me to help her. So that was my goal. Like I never really thought about this as an opportunity to grow or expand or share learnings. I think now I've always and I generally just want to help other people evolve or adapt or any way I can. So yeah, so I guess that track's evolving and growing heaps, which is phenomenal to see.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing. I think this is I don't know whether you, John, have a last question for Shane.
No, actually, one of my
Hit me,
questions
John.
was if Matt and Tia were to retire, if you would carry on coaching. But I kind of feel that's you just answered that. The coaching journey is longer than the athlete career.
That's the beauty. It looks after the knees, the coaching does. So
If you could
I'll keep
if you could take a few years off and let us all catch up, and then we can
Oh,
restart.
man, I wish that was the case.
Wonderful. Then, I think this is a beautiful way to end it. Shane, thank you so much for your time and your enthusiasm, and congratulations on the achievements. Please send our regards to Tia and Matt. Hopefully we can speak to you again sometime soon and celebrate more victories. It's a treat to see you guys perform from the stands. And John, thank you so much as well for joining the conversation.
I'm happy to be a part of it.
Guys,
Shane,
I also
thank
want
you
to
so
thank
much.
you guys for your time as well. I appreciate you guys dedicating or putting me on the show, and I know it's I appreciate your professionalism. And John, obviously, I respect you as a coach, and I think you're doing phenomenal things in Europe and in the States. And I look forward to bumping into you guys in the near future.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, John. Have a wonderful evening. You take care of each other. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
And I'm going to stop recording.